Chapter 20. The Occult in the Marketplace, A Tale of Etsy. Etsy, the, quote, global online marketplace where people come together to make, sell, buy, and collect unique items, end quote, is also a marketplace for occultism. It once fought against the occult's presence in its marketplace. Now, however, Etsy appears to have caved to the prevailing culture. Etsy is a good case study for the current state of our culture. In 2012, eBay, not Etsy, changed its rules and banned the sale of spells, hexes, healings, potions, and the like from its platform. As a result, witches flocked to Etsy, which became one of the most popular places for these metaphysical services, which were allowed so long as the services were accompanied by a tangible item. In 2015, though, Etsy also changed its rules, prohibiting the sales altogether, even if the seller still provided something tangible. Apparently, Etsy had moved quickly and began shutting down shops that did not comply with the new guidelines. This caused a great uproar and made the news all over the major networks. Witches were annoyed and perplexed by the change, especially since Etsy had been very welcoming to the witch community up until that point. Many witches began to believe that they were being targeted as a result of a religious bias against occult activity. Many Christian religious items were still permitted, which the witches said was proof that Etsy was guilty of religious discrimination. When the news of the change and the complaints became public, Amazon reached out to the witchcraft shops and invited them to set up their shops on their new Handmade platform. Though it still exists, Amazon Handmade does not appear to have been a great success. Still, there are now over 9,000 options under spell supplies on Amazon. 6 years later, Etsy, despite its rule change, was still allowing witchcraft shops. A Reddit thread from 2021 discussed the fact that, despite the ban on such things, there were spells everywhere, and official categories were also provided for them on the Etsy platform. Quote, metaphysical services may not be sold in our marketplace, end quote, Etsy currently states on its website. You can sell a tarot reading so long as it comes with a tangible item, but you can't cast spells or do rituals for someone which promise a specific metaphysical outcome. At least, this is what they say is the rule. Early in 2022, another online discussion about the presence of spells on Etsy, despite the ban, theorized that Etsy had simply made a truce with the witches. Etsy is so overwhelmed by the number of shops that are open and operating against the rules that they simply cannot police them all. It reminded me of Neo from The Matrix, who, in the third movie, made a truce with the machines, but did not liberate humanity from them. Neo and humanity entered into a coexistence with the evil machines for the time being. But good cannot tolerate evil. The evil will corrupt the good and take over. Etsy tried to cancel the sale of spells 7 years ago in order to preserve some sort of integrity. It makes one wonder, have they read the, quote, signs of the times, end quote, and are now convinced that the occult is mainstreamed and unstoppable? Currently, in 2022, spells are aplenty on the Etsy platform. Putting spell into the Etsy search bar today will bring up a huge inventory of spells that are all one click away. The visitor to this search result will be greeted by numerous disturbing images and even offers of death spells. There are over 200,000 different services offered under the search word spell. There are likely even more out there that come up under different key search words. Further, in the category witchcraft shops, there are just under 6,000 different shops. What kind of spells? Searching for death spell, yes, that's correct, will bring up close to 3,000 different options. When the visitor looks at a, quote, star seller of, quote, death spells, end quote, it is bewildering to say the least. The comments are filled with accolades like, quote, the seller is so nice, goes above and beyond, a nice person, so willing to help, very patient, end quote, to which the seller responded in equally kind and gracious words. All the while, he is casting spells for them to seek to cause death, achieve revenge, cause annihilation, and manifest hate. The seller is clear in his description that he uses black magic, quote, and demons, end quote, to cast his spells. Looking at the comments for an obsession spell, the witch in question is clearly effective in her spell work. She received high praise for her helpfulness and accuracy. Her spells apparently work, or at least every appearance is there that they work. Looking at the description of the shop, she is clearly doing spellcasting, in violation of the literal Etsy rules, but she stated at the bottom of her page, in order to skirt any violation, quote, "Due to the terms and policy, I am stating that this is for entertainment purposes only," end quote. Clearly, everything else in her description proves the contrary. So what are we to make of this? Witchcraft has its foothold in the culture. There is now clearly a market, literally, for it, an audience and a revenue stream. Stores that once desired to resist it can do so no longer. And what does that lead to? The young generations are growing up in an ever-increasingly witchy world. This reminds me of a question I once posed to an exorcist. Do you think it's possible that the religion of the Antichrist could be witchcraft and the occult, and that we could eventually see pentagrams and other occult symbols everywhere, like Christian symbols used to be? His answer? Definitely.